So viewers, I've got something to confess. We've lost about £150,000 on one of our developments. Amortization, a bit of a difficult one to say that. So what was all this about? So let me rewind you back to the kind of heydays in the UK, 2021, post-pandemic. There was stamp duty relief, all the property prices were going up and the rest of it. And what we did was we thought we would buy this property and then we were going to actually build on top of it, extend it, and then we were going to try and sell it. Now, those of you who've watched the channel for a while probably know we don't really sell anything, to be honest. We like this kind of build it, rent it out kind of strategy and the rest of it. So selling it was like a bit of an unknown to us. But it was going to be a massive house, really, really nice, probably not really fit for the rental market. So lessons to be learned from this is probably not to deviate away from what you're good at. We don't really sell properties, so that's that really. So we bought this property, and a little bit of backstory to it. So when I grew up, I was in number 36 in this road, and number 34 came up for sale. And the funny thing about it was that Mr. and Mrs. Christmas still owned the property from when I was young 6-year-old Matthew. And my parents used to say to me, Mr. and Mrs. Christmas live next door, so you better be good or you won't get any Christmas presents. So it was kind of like pretty cool buying a house next to the house that I grew up in and the rest of it. It also has a Cox's apple tree in the back garden, and it was just like all the things were falling into place. But that was probably some of the alarm bells, because you should always get other people to look at things. You shouldn't just fall in love with them, always get second opinions. I didn't do any of that really. I mean, I had the surveyors look at it and the rest of it, but you know, from a mathematical point of view, was this actually gonna stack up? But I was in love with the idea of buying this, refurbishing it. The wife unfortunately had passed away, Mrs. Christmas, but Mr. Christmas was in a nursing home, and I really wanted to do that. And I also wanted to present them with some photographs of how it was, because it was literally untouched since the 1970s. As you can see, it has had very little done to it in the time, probably since it was original. I mean, we're hoping to actually do what some of the neighbouring properties have done and build an extension above my head here, which will give 2 further bedrooms pretty much over this lounge behind me. I've literally never seen anything like this before. So this switch up here, flick that on, and the outside light comes on. But the outside light, it's like some kind of crazy siren. Bet you haven't got one of those on your development. No, that's a first. Nice grey radiator, obviously all new UPVC windows. Nice light fittings and stuff like that, those sort of metal jobbies that are pretty common. And again, this black hinges, white door arrangement that we've gone kind of throughout, even like the inner bits of the locks and stuff like that are all done. And again, the sort of hinges and things like that. And that goes nicely into the kind of grand entrance here. We've got this nice hanging light arrangement. Although that's actually quite big, it doesn't even do the space justice, if I'm honest. You can't really see from here, but it probably could have been almost twice the size in terms of width either way, but nonetheless quite a nice little feature. Overall, it's a pretty nice little place. Well, it's quite a big place actually, to be fair, but yeah, overall you know, nice and modern now. Originally we actually put the property on at 450, thinking that would we would get, you know, a ride on the booming market, if you like. Unfortunately, that didn't really kind of come to fruition. So we went about doing it. There were various delays with the builder. It was like a complete pain in the backside. Like products were going through the roof with inflation. So stuff that was out of our control, like the cost of timber went from like £4 a length to like £12, and we were doing a massive roof extension, over doubling the size of the property. But the cost just kept escalating. But we thought, we know what we could sell it for, because the market kept going up and up and up and up. Cut a long story short, we got to the end of the process around about Easter time 2022, pretty much finished, put the property on the market. We were after about £450,000. We'd paid 240 for it. We probably spent about 100 grand on it. So we'd gone over budget with all of that, because we only really set aside to probably spend 65, 70 on it. So, you know, we're 30 grand over budget at this point in time, but we're not too fussed, because we were thinking we're going to be able to sell it for about 400-ish, and the market actually made it go up to about 450, maybe 425. So we thought, we'll sell this. Well, unfortunately, Liz Truss came along with a mini budget and literally collapsed the market. So another important lesson, which I tell a lot of people, but we kind of forgot it and didn't build it into our factors, is that macroeconomics can affect you. That's completely out of our control. That the Conservative government in the UK decided to change hands. They decided to launch this mini budget, which was designed to boost growth, but actually had a negative effect, because essentially they were spending money they didn't really have, or that's the way it came across. So all the mortgage companies pulled out the market, nobody was buying, interest rates were going up. Right in the middle, we're trying to sell our lovely little bungalow that we'd extended and made all nice inside. So fast forward to December 2022, we'd given up trying to sell it, so we thought we'd rent it. Well, I thought it was a genius idea to buy this thing in my own name, but as those who watch the other videos, buying property in your own name is not a good idea, because you can't claim the interest payments. Obviously we were trying to sell this property, so I'm now stuck with section 24 issues, because I can't claim the interest on it, and I'm also stuck with this property that we kind of wanted to get our money back out of and move on. So we're stuck with that. Then I had a devil's own job trying to mortgage it, because we do some spray foam insulation, when it turns out mortgage companies don't really like that, so we had to get that removed in places and sorted out. In the end we got it mortgaged, but even then they didn't want to mortgage it right up to its full value. By then we were kind of talking about numbers of about 400, so it dropped by 50 grand. They still didn't even want to loan that high either, so we left an awful lot of equity locked into the property, because they only loaned us, I think it was about 230,000, so not even 75-25%. We're running probably closer to 60-40 on that property, and we've left that locked in, and we thought, well, we'll wait for the markets to recover, it's no problem at all. But what we do is we'll rent it out. Well, in the first year we rented out to someone at £1,750 a month, and you think, oh, that's brilliant, super duper, but the mortgage was like £1,000, and of course I have to pay full tax at 40% on the £1,700. So we were clearing about £20 out of that £1,750. So for £100,000 investment, I'm getting £20 a month back. Hardly worth it at all. And then it gets worse. Obviously, we then have a boiler breakdown. I mean, we had a brand new boiler, but there were some issues that weren't under warranty for whatever reason. So we had to pay some money then. We had a couple of leaks. Bits of the building that we didn't repair started to cause us issues, so the property ends up making a loss in the first year. Now, fast forward a couple of years' time, they're paying £2,050 a month rent, and we're clearing about £100 on it. Still a completely naff return on £100,000, getting £1,200 a year return on it. I don't even know what the percentage is. It bothers me to even think about it, quite frankly, but it's definitely less than 1%. Or maybe it's around 1%. I guess that's probably quite close to 1%, isn't it? But it's like pathetic, quite frankly. So we're really stuck with that property, unfortunately, until we can sell it, because I refuse to just lose money on it. I can't shift it even at around 400,000. So, but it wouldn't be a video of mine without a little bit of a positive spin on it. So, what's great about this property is actually it's a different type of asset that we own. It's a massive 4-bedroom house. Normally we're in the market of 2, 3 bed, 1 bed flats, that kind of stuff, or small houses, because they return the best rental return. But what's really good about this property is when those people who are renting the 2 bed flat or 2 bed house really get to the end of their life cycle and then maybe they want to have more kids or move on, well, this is the perfect upsell to them because they can move into that. So we're saving a good relationship with a tenant by allowing them to go from anywhere from a 1-bedroom flat all the way up to a massive 4-bedroom house. So that serviced our portfolio quite well. So the actual empty time, to some degree, irritatingly, is very, very little. I say irritating because it means I have to turn the property around within like a weekend rather than having like a couple of weeks for snagging and painting and decorating. So that's really good. Property prices have remained stable in the area, so they haven't really dropped any further, so that's not too bad. And the major thing is via bridging loans and creative financing, we can actually borrow that money against it via a second charge. So we can still utilise that money to our benefit without actually having to withdraw it and then use it on another site, which is what we might otherwise do. So we can borrow against the equity in the property. So it's not completely lost, it's all there. But it's just an example of one that perhaps didn't quite go to plan. Obviously, we would have loved to have sold it, had the money, walked off from it. We're now stuck with it for a bit. And I think the key takeaway from this is always to have option A, B, C, D when you're doing these developments, because you can get stuck with it. It's not our fault that the stock market and Liz Truss came along and did all that kind of stuff. It's just a perfect cocktail of like misfortune, if you like, right at the wrong time. But we have managed to save the position where we can loan again, we can borrow against it. The tenants are happy. It gives them a kind of tangible thing to go up to as well. So I think that's an important takeaway, because not every project is always going to go swimmingly, and you guys down the other end of the lens must know that, and you have to accept that, and always have an option A, B, C, that kind of stuff, like just in case things go wrong. So if you like the video, please don't forget to subscribe, like the channel, all that kind of stuff. Comment below, maybe go and have a look at the full video over on the old channel if you want to, or comment below or something like that. Don't forget we're on Instagram and Facebook. You can go and follow us for exclusive content all over there. And by liking all this content and all that stuff, I know everybody asks you to do that all the time, but what it actually does is it allows the videos and things and the content to reach a wider audience, because by you liking it, the algorithm then might suggest it to somebody else who also might like it, and then that will help more people. And it's good, I think, to share sometimes your successes, but also your non-successes or your failures or whatever, and how you can turn them around. You know, I'm a fairly positive person. This is not the end of the world. There's bigger things in the world that are going to happen, but it's just a good example of sometimes it doesn't quite go right. So, see you in the next video.